What's up, guys? Eric Coates here. We're gonna try something different today. Driving in the car on my way to do a pickup for a party that we're having this weekend. So I have a lot of stuff we have to go get. But figured I would do a quick video because this crossed my mind. So I saw an article today, and it kind of inspired this thought in my head. And I think it's pretty common in the programming world, and that is that people get comfortable or familiar with something, and they become defensive of that thing, and they make it a hill to die on, so to speak. So one of the things in particular I'm talking about is Microsoft Access. So some of you might know, if you're following the channel, that my first real programming job was at a Microsoft Access shop where we use VBA programming to kind of integrate the Microsoft Office suite, right? So VBA is the language that like Microsoft Access are in Microsoft Excel, Microsoft Word, right? All those programs are written in VBA. And what VBA allows you to do is to kind of like make a Microsoft Office program kind of like your own, right? So like if you needed to make a piece of software that lived inside of Microsoft Access, you can do that. And then that software can talk to all the other programs in the Microsoft suite. So like, I could hit a button in Access, take data, and then populate it into a Microsoft Word document. And it works pretty well because it's all Microsoft, right? It's all the same language. So, but while I was a developer there, even though I was a young developer and it was my first like real programming job, I questioned a lot of things, and a lot of things just didn't make sense, right? There was all these very seasoned developers that were like gung-ho on Microsoft Access, and it was like they were so like everyone was so like blind to other things, right? Like so for instance, a lot of them hate web applications. They just could despise them. And it was like, well, why do you hate them, right? Why do you hate a web application? Oh, well, they're not as good, and they're whatever it might be. They're not as efficient. They're not as quick, or whatever XYZ reason they wanted to give. And I would always combat that and be like, well, everybody can access it, right? Like in a world where we're in remote work a lot more, doesn't it make sense to have something online so people can access it from anywhere? Like if they need to, it's just way more convenient. Why would you make them have the Microsoft Office suite, have to get access, which isn't part of like the cheaper suite, right? It's not like it's like free or anything like that. You need to actually have, the program, or have the runtime. And now you're talking about having a runtime and people don't know what the hell a runtime is, and installing stuff on machines. Like it just doesn't make sense, right? But this community of Access developers were always like, oh, people hate Access, but it's great because it always works. And it's like, to their point, and to be fair, it's true. We had software that was 30 years old and was still working seamlessly, no problems. But it was also a software that was 30 years old, right? Like there was a lot of things that were missing. And even Microsoft themselves don't want to support Microsoft Access. You would hear Access developers all the time, and they would talk about it, and they'd be like, well, this program got all these new things and Access didn't get anything. It's like, you think? Of course it didn't. Microsoft doesn't like it, and there's better, ultimately there's better things out there. There's better stuff. So why do programmers, and again, this isn't just VBA, right? This is pick whatever language, pick whatever platform, pick whatever it is. People, right now it's with AI, right? People are like, oh, no AI because, XYZ, and it doesn't do code well, and it does, what's the word? Not insufficient, something's not fast, and it's not streamlined. Can't think of the word. But, they're like, hey, it doesn't, it's not the cleanest or the fastest or the smoothest code, or there's a lot of technical debt, or whatever they say, right? But at the end of the day, if I'm looking for a bug in something because I missed a I misspelled a variable or something like that, I highlight my code, I throw it in, and I said, where am I going wrong? And the thing looks, and it's 2 seconds. Otherwise, I could look at that thing for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and then be like, oh, I called the variable houses, and I wrote house here, and that broke everything, right? Or I put, the one bug that I had the other day was, I was naming variables, and so I put an equal sign where it was supposed to be a plus sign, because if you hit shift, like as I'm typing fast, especially in PHP, you need to hit shift to hit the dollar sign. So it was, a variable plus a variable, right, is what the thing needed to be. And instead of, I hit, the shift a little bit early, and instead of getting the equal sign, I let go of the shift earlier, whatever it was, right? Instead of hitting the equals, instead of hitting the plus, I hit the equals. And that broke everything. I couldn't figure out where the bug was. It took me like an hour to find where it was, because the code I was looking at, it was like one call that said a whole bunch of variables. So there was a call that did that. And then it took a report later on, and once the report was run, then it looped through all these other variables, right? And it set what was a table, right? So it set all the variables of a table in another spot, and then it called them in a completely different spot. So like, it was a lot of code. It must have been, I would say, if I had to estimate, it had to be probably like 250 to 300 lines of code that did this, maybe more. And so it was like, I had to find one spot where it was where that problem was happening, right? And so, long story short is, I put it in AI, or I actually didn't put it in AI, but I could have put it in AI probably, and it probably would have seen it, but I had to know what to put in. But yeah, like people don't like things that are different or things that are new, and it's silly, because you work in tech, you work in technology, right? And technology is always changing. It's always getting better, more efficient, new languages, new stuff to learn, right? This is what you signed up for. And if you're gonna sit there and you're gonna complain or like die on a hill because something's, I hate this thing or whatever it is, then it is what it is. And it works the same way too. Like I always use the comparison to PHP, right? Like, people are like, PHP is dead, it sucks. Like, no, it doesn't. PHP is awesome, and Laravel is great. Like, there's so many great things about PHP and how easy it is to get a web application up, right? And that like, I'm not gonna sit here and be like, yeah, I mean, PHP is better for single page applications, because it's not, right? So like, if you want a single page application, you're gonna use JavaScript, right? That's just how it is, right? But like, for me, like that's a different story. It's not me being like, oh, I don't want to learn anything else, right? It's me being like, oh yeah, no, like, I understand JavaScript has its strengths, and PHP has its strengths, and Python has its strengths, right? Like, everything has its own thing. Even VBA has its strengths, right? To be honest with you, we do something in our my business where we use a PHP library. I think it's an old library. It's older, so it's definitely out of date, because our version of PHP is in the 7s and not in the 8s yet. But it's like PHP Word, I think is what it's called. And so what it does is it allows you to like put variables inside of Microsoft Word. And it's a real pain in the ass the way that it works. And like, you have to, like, if you have like a table, you have to use this thing called clone row, and then like, if the variables name something, you have to, I don't know, it's very confusing. There's not a lot of documentation on it, right? Whereas if I was using something like VBA, it'd be a lot easier, right? Like, if I could just use a VBA script to do that, but we don't have that, right? I came in and this was how we did it, and there's code already written there, so that's what we're gonna do, right? There's no point in reworking the wheel, right? Because there's other fish to fry, so to speak. But something like that, VBA would be great. Connect to the database or whatever it is, grab the fields out of the database, and just do it in Microsoft Word. And then you don't have to use templates then you could just have somebody have the Word file, open it, and then bada bing, right? It works. So again, everything has its strengths and everything has its weaknesses. But the problem that I had, especially when I was an Access developer, was other Access developers, in their 50s, right? Who are like, oh, everything else is terrible and it sucks. And no. It's like, no, you're just being stubborn. You're just being stubborn. Fine, you love Access, that's great. But don't sit there and be like, it's the greatest thing ever, because it's not. Like, I would be a liar to tell you that PHP is the greatest thing ever. There's a lot of shortcomings, right? I love PHP because it makes things easy for me, right? Like, it's so little resistance to get a web application up and running. Like, I don't have to do, like if a client comes to me and they're like, oh, I need a web application. And I'm like, okay, great. So I automatically think PHP. And then they're like, oh, but we want it in WordPress. Okay, still PHP, right? Or, you know, they're like, hey, I need a store. Well, you got WooCommerce, right? If you want to do that. All written in PHP, right? Or I could go to Laravel if they really wanted to go and do that, right? Like, and then to get it on a host, right? You name it. GoDaddy, Hostinger, HostGator, Bluehost. The list goes on and on, right? Like, they all have WordPress hosting. They all have PHP right on the server. So why the hell would I go fire up a VM on DigitalOcean, try to install, you know, have to install MySQL or whatever database they were using, and then go and install PHP or whatever, you know, I mean, JavaScript, I guess it would be, right? So you have to go and install Node. And then after I have that up, now I got to get, you know, some sort of routing. So I have to get, you know, Express and Node, and then I have to put all the packages in, and then just to get something up. Like, it's no. But again, that's why I like PHP, and that's the reason. But I'm not going to sit here and be like, PHP is the only way, and like everyone else is stupid, like, because it's not true, right? Everything has its own strengths and everything has its weaknesses. But I can't stand, and it happens a lot with Access. And again, the real reason I see it because of Microsoft Access is because I was an Access developer. So a lot of people that I follow and all that other stuff, when I was learning it, like I tried to follow it and all the things. Like they get excited. They'll be like, oh, look at this new thing that we can do in Access. And it's like, you've been able to do that in every other language, in every other system for years. And you can do it now. Like, why are you excited about that? Why are you still, like, yes, you want to keep making Access? That's great. That's awesome. Like, the world needs that. And there are so many businesses out there that use Microsoft Access, right? And they need developers out there, right? Like, if you had a bank, let's say you had a small bank, right, that was using Microsoft Access, right, for accounting or whatever the hell you're doing with it, and it's been there for a long time and everything's integrated, to get something else made, like in the web or whatever, it's gonna be extremely expensive for the bank to do that, right? So they can stick with their Access application and it all still works. And I get it, like, that's great. It's great that it's still available and it's still, you know, available for purchase for them. But at the same time, moving forward, like, if there's an application that comes up and somebody needs it, you don't be like, oh, we're gonna make it an Access. Like, no, like, that's not, unless it's like specifically like, this needs to work, nobody can access it from the internet, you know, it's got to be it's got to run on one machine, and everybody needs to be able to, you know, or remote into it, like whatever that might be. If for your special use case, it's for very niche special use cases only. Otherwise, every other thing is going to be better, right? Every other thing is going to be better. Now, Access is great, or like, I should say Access. VBA is great for like people who want to make like little scripts and stuff, right? Like, so like, say you're not a full-on programmer, and you want to make like an automation, right, that does something in Excel, right? So like every night, you know, it runs the database call and populates a report in Excel for somebody to look at in the morning or whatever it is. That's fine. Like, but the thing is, like, everyone talks, and this is another thing, and I'm getting on a tangent and a rant, but it's another thing I don't understand about Microsoft Access and VBA development in general. Everyone talks about how easy it is to learn. I did not find it easy or intuitive at all. Like, I had to know, like, so when you program web stuff, right? Like in JavaScript, right? So like you have, you declare your variables, right? And then you have like methods built into JavaScript, right? So like a good one is .length, right? So if I have a variable, right, or an array, and I call it my things, right? And it's an array with 3 things in it, right? And then I say console log my things.length, right? .length, that's the method or the property or whatever it is on there, right? So all that stuff is built into the object when it's made in JavaScript, right? Or if I needed a method, right, on it or whatever it would be dot whatever and then with a parentheses, right? So there's an entire ecosystem there, and it's very nice because you learn it fast because you use a lot of that stuff like immediately, right? and like you're playing off of the DOM, so like it's easier to understand what you're trying to grab, right? Like if I need to do this thing, what's it called, right? It has an ID or it has a class name or something along those lines. It's very kind of intuitive to like figure out how that all works, right? Whereas when I was in Access development, like it was weird because like functions weren't like functions, like there are functions, but like you use subroutines more often, right? You only use functions when you need to return something and a subroutine when you don't need to return something. And then like, like you declared like your variables, right? It is type safe, I believe, unless you put a particular type in there. I can't remember what it was. Maybe it's variable. I can't remember what the type is, but it just like, to get stuff, it didn't make sense. Like in Access, you'd make a combo box, right? And you had to figure out like it tried to make it easy by like giving you like, I don't know if it's because I was trying to use code to do everything, and like as an Access developer, you're supposed to like more use like the form builder and that sort of thing. And I just wasn't used to that, right? I was used to web where it was like absolutely nothing, empty browser until you do something, right? So I think that might have played into it, but like having to call in, like there's like dependencies that you needed to bring in and like they weren't native there, so you had to like go up into the menu, find out where those things were, and then bring them in, and then like trying to connect it to like, if you didn't want to use Access as the database, trying to connect it to like MySQL or SQL Server or like it just was not intuitive. Like, I mean, if you're out there, you're listening to this and you're like, oh, and everything I just said, you're like, oh, that sounds pretty intuitive. Great, you're an Access developer, like go enjoy it, because like it was not, like you look online, people say it's easy, it's not easy. And I don't know if it's because what we were doing with it, right? Because like we weren't even like making forms like in the form builder, it was like we were creating forms from classes. So I mean, I don't know, that's not this for that, and like I said, this is just my take on it and like my struggle with it. But the thing that I would always got mad about, I didn't get mad, but like it was frustrating, is like there's a better way to do things. Why are we doing it? Why are we trying to fit inside of this box? And when we don't fit in that box, right? Like this world doesn't fit, and we're good, we're smart, good developers. Like, don't sell yourself short. Don't just stay in that little ecosystem where you think it's where you live. Like there's no need for that, right? Branch out. So this is me saying to people, like, branch out, learn new things as they come at you, learn new technologies. Don't be afraid of AI. Embrace AI, right? Like, you don't have to be like, I'm just going to vibe code everything, because that's a terrible idea. But I'm saying, like, where it's applicable, be like, hey, I need this thing to do this thing, right? If it's a simple thing to do, like I need it happened to me the other night, right? I was using Bootstrap, and I was using one of the Bootstrap navigation bars, right? And so one of the most annoying things to me, and I never remember to do that, how to do it because it's so annoying, is in the mobile design ones, right? So you get like a little hamburger button in the top corner, and you can hit that button, and then it drops the navigation down, right? It already does it for you, so it's all code that you don't have to write. Well, I had a dark background, and I wanted the button to be white, right? Like the lines and the thing around it to be white. And my God, to get that to change, like you had to call in an SVG and all these different things, and like you can't just say, border is white or this other thing is white. Like there's no image, there's no text, there's no nothing. It's not that, it's an SVG. So like, anyways, went to AI. First I tried Gemini, sucked, gave me the wrong thing. So then I went to Grok, and I said, Grok, I need this. Grok spit out some code in 2 seconds and popped it in. Like, I didn't even attempt to change it, right? Because I know that it's a pain in the ass, and Grok did it in 2 seconds. Like, that's a great example of where AI is so good to integrate into your workflow, right? Like, so I guess what I'm saying is, don't be afraid of new things. And this is not to hate on Microsoft Access, right? I'm not trying to poo-poo anybody that's a big fan of Access, right? Because some of, like I said, my old boss, great dude, one of the nicest, best people I've ever met in my life, right? So like, this is not, and he is a huge Access guy, and that's not to like throw any shade at him or any shade at anybody that likes this. It's me just saying, like, this is my take on it, right? And I think people would benefit more often in the tech world, rather than picking hills to die on, to be more open to things, right? To be more open to trying different things and seeing what's out there, you know, like, get out of the C# is the best language or Python for everyone. Like, no, they're different tools for different things, and there's strengths and weaknesses to all of them, and depending on what you want to do, embrace them. Now, again, I think you need to niche down on something and pick, you know, kind of like the world you want to live in, like where the best is for you, right? So like, for instance, for me, it's PHP and JavaScript, right? Because I'm a web developer. That's the world I live in, right? But if I had an automation, like I had to read through PDFs, right? Like, and so I use Python to do that. I don't really know a lot of Python, and again, this is why AI is great, because I could pretty easily figure out a script for Python to go through and find a library that could read the PDFs for me, because PHP was not cutting it on the PDFs, guys. It just wasn't. Like, someone was getting all sorts of wrong information and reading things wrong and how they were encoded, and real pain in the ass PHP. Use Python, done. So again, another example of where strengths and weaknesses are. So don't be out there and die on a hill. It's fine to have your opinion and to be like confident in that's what you think. That's fine. But also realize that everyone else has really good points, and to be open to discussion, right? Where things could be different, right? You don't have to be that way, but you also don't have to be a dick about things. So anyways, that's my take on that. I don't know where I started with the video and what I wanted to say as compared to what came out, but I think there's nuggets of intelligence in there. I don't know. Let me know if my rant was worth listening to in the comments below. Again, that's Eric Codes out there. Hope everyone's having a great day. See you soon.